What was the incident in your high school? Someone took a massive shit in the boys' bathroom. Like, huge. Like, so big that there is still a debate about whether or not the shit was actually human or if it was smuggled in somehow. So notable that everyone from my consumer economics class got up individually to go to the bathroom and drop their jaw in awe at the absolute spectacle that was this shit. Multiple jokes were made about it at school events, and to this day, no one knows who did the poop. This guy I knew had a bowel problem and would only shit about once a week. He was skin and bones. One time a friend ran out of the bathroom screaming. We went in, and I saw the biggest shit I've ever seen in my life. The thing was sticking out of the toilet. He didn't admit it until after, when people were more amazed than grossed out. He was later referred to as the shit. A football player with the last name Parham got punished for some shit and was no longer allowed to walk the stage for graduation. One day, a friend of his pulled up in a truck outside of the cafeteria during lunch, slammed on the brakes, jumped out, and proceeded to sprint inside. He streaked through half the cafeteria with a Spider-Man mask on and "Free Parham" painted on his bare ass. Staff tried to grab him and stop him, and despite him literally slipping on a piece of food and falling, he escaped valiantly, as any hero should. Eventually, Parham was once again allowed to walk the stage, although I'm sure the stunt wasn't the only reason for it. My high school was recently in the news because a virus got into our school system and held the school's data at ransom for $300,000. The virus held the school's data ransom? Or a person did, using a virus? Okay. So this happened yesterday, and it was pretty wild for a Canadian school. At the end of the day, there was a police car at the front of the school. Someone said they saw a kid get arrested when they went to the washroom. At the end of the day, a cop and the principal were standing at both back passenger windows talking to someone inside. We all just assumed that someone was getting arrested for selling drugs or something. The next day, my homeroom teacher told us between third and fourth period, the two afternoon periods in Canada, a former student who was about 20 years old blended in with students and snuck into the school hallways. He wandered through the hallways, stealing from unlocked lockers, and actually stole about 10 laptops from teachers' classrooms somehow. They ended up catching him at the Tim Hortons down the road. Not sure what's going to happen to him, but someone said his mom was his getaway vehicle a couple blocks down the road. He just had to stop at Timmy's first. Only in Canada do people have to stop for a coffee and a donut mid-robbery. And apparently also have their mum as their getaway driver. Mad. Two guys in my year decided to bring about 50 cabbages into our school and start a cabbage fight in the science corridor. All hell broke loose and cabbage leaves were everywhere. About 100 students joined in, lol. Now you know who's the math problem guy. High School 1, Justin's, they make rings and yearbooks, was on campus to sell us our class rings. They had a Chicago Bears Super Bowl ring along with other famous rings they made. Somebody stole the Super Bowl ring. We were all called into an assembly to find the ring. The Justin's guy was close to tears. The ring was found in the hallway after the assembly was let out. High School 2, a couple girls got in a fight at a bus stop. One of them cut the other up with a box cutter and then tossed battery acid on her. Oh my god. Law school is a lot like high school in that you are all in the same building all the time and everyone has a locker. We had barrister's ball, aka law school prom, at the Children's Museum. People drank too much and did a lot of damage. Someone stole Mr. Rogers' actual shoe. Oh my god. It was later returned and the guilty party was never punished, but the law school was banned from having events there forever. This was the second such ban. They're running out of spots. I went to a private school where you weren't allowed to have your phone on you. One day the vice principal bursts into a classroom and says in a panic, "Quick, I need to use someone's phone." 10 kids got detention and their phones confiscated. Screw you, Mr. Kiefer. What an asshole. I totally agree. Like, what if it was an emergency, right? You just give him your phone, wouldn't you? I didn't transfer in until after it happened, but I had a classmate who was in the room when it happened. Our 9th grade year, 1989 to 1990, one of the guys in the theatre/drama class had been threatening suicide and to hurt friends and classmates. She and all her friends went to the teachers and principal, but were told they could do nothing because he had no history, and therefore he had to do something first. He did, walked in mid-class, took the entire room, including my friend and her friends who had reported his threats hostage, brandishing the gun around repeatedly, then shot one of their mutual friends who was trying to talk him down. Kid lost his ear, but not his life, thankfully. She was still giving legal depositions 2 years later when I met her, which is how I heard the story. This would definitely be negligence on the school's part, which is why she was giving depots. There is a general duty to protect your students, especially in the face of actual threats. It also sounds like you have multiple kids reporting multiple incidents, so the idea that you could say the kids had no history is laughable. He might not have had a file, but a simple investigation would likely have revealed even more incidents. Not high school, but I remember in elementary school, we got put on lockdown because someone thought there was a rabid fox on the field. It was a fat orange cat. Mondays, huh? Somebody threw a dead deer into the quad. I think they only got in trouble because they broke some lights on the roof while doing it. Oh man. One time this kid I was friends with brought this hot sauce called Da Bomb, 1.5 million Scoville units hotter than hell, to high school and let a bunch of kids try it during lunch. I mean, at least 30 kids. Some kids really started freaking out because that shit is ridiculously hot. Like you're supposed to add 1 or 2 drops to a big batch of chili to make it spicy. Some were trying to show off and took a swig of it and ended up vomiting everywhere from the heat/panic. Multiple kids had to go to the nurse and be sent home because they way overdid it, although I think most just really had no idea what a Scoville unit was, or that they made hot sauce that was that ridiculously hot. It was chaos. I tried it as well, a dime-size amount, and I couldn't concentrate on anything but chugging milk, and I'm really good with spicy foods. Finally, the principal came on the intercom and said, "Whoever brought the hot sauce, please, just stop." My friend got into some pretty big trouble for that one. That's the principal's sound of defeat. Any teacher, really. When I break that one out in the classroom, I am officially admitting defeat and pleading. Someone called in a bomb threat to my middle school and elementary school. Instead of evacuating both buildings, we were in lockdown for 3 hours, and they condensed all of us in the middle school. We later evacuated to the high school, only like 300 feet away, and were stuck there for hours because our parents couldn't get to us. All of our phones were taken because they didn't want to give us information, so there were like 700 white moms in Suburban simultaneously having a heart attack trying to get to the school. We learned later they called this in to almost every school in the area. There was a robbery at a Bank of America while the cops were preoccupied. Classic payday gang. 2 girls were fighting over a boy. They were in the bathroom in the same stall. While they were fighting, one of the girls took out a pair of scissors and stabbed the other in the eye. The girl who stabbed her was expelled, and the other girl turned out to be just fine and went back to school like everything was normal. The creepy part was, my classroom was the closest one to the bathroom, and we didn't hear anything. We just saw the cops. It creeps me out to think it happened a couple of feet away from me. What about her eye? That doesn't sound very alright to me. Surprisingly enough, there's quite a few instances of times when something like this happens, and when the doctors removed the offending object, they were surprised to see that somehow the eye had just kind of been pushed out of the way and smushed up in the skull with the brain. Not to say this doesn't f*** with your eye for a few weeks or months, but similar things have happened. Yeah, that sounds like it's still a massive problem, you know? A guy went into the locker room during gym class and into another guy's backpack. Since so many people asked, this happened in a German school in 2014 or 2015. The guy didn't face any consequences, although almost everyone knew who did it. Our principal pretty much was like, yeah, let's not talk about this. The story also spread like a wildfire in our town, and I had friends from different schools text me about it before I even came home that day. It was the last day for the senior class. There were only 2 significant pranks that day. The principal's office was filled with balloons and glitter, and the main hallway entrance was saran wrapped. About an hour before the day ended, the principal came over the loudspeaker and said that anyone caught participating in a prank would not walk at the graduation ceremony. About a minute after he said this, the fire alarm went off. A guy who was near the principal's office said that he got angry and said out loud, "Someone's not walking," before storming off. An entire wing of the school was hazy and smoke was pouring out of the classroom. Turns out the science teacher was doing a laser experiment for his class and created too much smoke with a smoke machine. Balloons and glitter. I hope they were balloons filled with glitter to create surprise glitter explosions. It took 6 hours, but we finally got all that glitter cleared up. Now pop those balloons and let's get out of here. We were all called to an emergency assembly and told a student had died. Her friends were distraught, and even the people who didn't know her went quiet. I think I remember a group of students putting together a type of memorial card. The whole morning was morbid, until the dead girl arrived at school and didn't know what was going on. How do you mess up that bad? Did they ever give any explanation as to what happened? Nah, it was swept under the rug pretty quick. I think they acknowledged they were wrong once, but then just went silent about it. Why did it happen in the first place? Like, what prompted them to think she was dead? Probably another student played a prank, pretending to be the deceased student's parent or relative. I mean, that's not funny though. That's awful. This happened in grade school, but a moose escaped a local zoo and somehow made its way to our schoolyard during our recess. We were all rushed inside and the school was put into a lockdown situation until the moose left the yard. One guess what country I'm from. Wow, this blew up. Anyone who guessed Canada is right. I feel like there's nothing more Canadian than almost getting mowed down by a moose. Someone threw a fork, hit some 12-year-old girl and got stuck in her head. Wow. Short and shocking. When I was in high school, our Hicktown school had a gang called the Cobras who would spray paint cobras on school property, write it on desks, in the bathroom, basically everywhere. It was dumb, and many of the students had a good idea who was part of this gang, but the teachers didn't. The principal will call down groups for photos in the yearbook, siblings, sports teams, drama clubs, etc. on overhead announcements. And one day, they called down the Cobras for a school photo for the yearbook to try and figure out who they were. They caught almost half the students who were defacing school property because they showed up for the group photo. No, they didn't get a photo in the yearbook. Multiple people have shown up from my high school. Yes, our mascot was the Huskies. How stupid do you have to be to walk into your own arrest? About that stupid. Well, this kid was doing pull-ups on a door frame in our wood shop, and some of his friends thought it would be funny to place a pipe bender under his ass. When he finished his pull-ups and dropped off the frame, the pipe bender went straight up his butt and tore his rectum open. Kid didn't graduate because he spent so much time in the ER and now he has to in a bag. I cringed so hard. Yeah, some kid fainted when our shop teacher told us about the incident. I forgot how nasty kids can be. That is... Poor kid. I was a teacher and a very good kid just got pushed to his limit by a bullied teacher, had been bullied by this guy for a couple of years, never did find out what was up with that. So bully teacher says something to the kid, he runs out to his car, grabs a crowbar and comes in smashing all the glass he encountered. It was safety glass but lots of shards anyway. Tries to go after the teacher to kill him. He got trapped in the library. Classroom was located in a small classroom off the library, and I was right next door, keeping kids in their seats and unable to go to the bathroom for about 90 minutes. Cops began arriving from all directions since we were right off 2 state highways. State cops, canine cops, etc. Kid destroyed all the beautiful 1940s oak shelving, teacher's desk, anything that would break. His mom shows up and disarms him. Kid gets slammed on a stretcher and hauled off to the nearest AFB where his dad worked. Not sure exactly what all happened there, but he got a lifetime ban from being at the high school and a serious restraining order from ever contacting or being near the bully teacher. Continued, I liked the kid, never had one tiny bit of trouble with him. Saw him a couple of months later and asked him to please tell me if he was ever mad at me. He laughed. Kid was diagnosed with intermittent explosive disorder. Went on to be a good adult. He just kind of lost it that day. I did not know that the kid was being bullied until the shit hit the fan. Then kids told me the whole story. There was nothing I could do except offer words of support to his girlfriend and then be nice to him when I saw him again. As a victim of lifetime bullying, not school but family, I know the damage it can cause. As far as bullies go, I called them out in my classroom whenever I knew what was going on. But if you know anything about bullies, they tend to do these things at times/places that teachers don't see. We can't stop what we don't witness. Sadly, many/most victims do not report until the situation has reached critical mass. It's one thing to be bullied by other kids, but by an adult in a position like that is devastating. Glad he's doing good now. We had a fight club that made front page news when someone added a newspaper reporter to the private Facebook group. The police showed up to the next fight, everyone scattered, and a kid got hit by a bus while running across the street. We got a new crossing light installed in the middle of the block the next semester. Yeah, but what about the fight club, you know? Undercover cop posed as a student for 6 months, busted a variety of students dealing and transporting drugs. I tried searching for news articles about it, and apparently it's a common sting operation they do in Southern California schools around LA and San Diego and surrounding districts. What are you having for dinner tonight, Billy? My mom is making meatloaf. Did you play the new, looks at piece of paper with a list of stuff teens like, Nintendo Switch game? During lunch, if you picked up trash and turned it into the yard attendant, you would get a dime per piece. One kid did it religiously, every lunch, and was tormented and bullied the whole time. Kids would knock the trash out of his hands, push him over when he picked it up, call him all sorts of names. They were relentless. Then, in junior year, he bought a '66 Mustang. Not an accident really, but I still have respect for that kid. That kid's smart. Yeah, that kid's very smart. Always pick up trash, you know.